Okay, so let's do the warm up first, okay, and then we're gonna move into the weightlifting components. Okay, so as usual, the warm up is just literally warming up the body. Okay, so we're just gonna start off with just kind of a stationary march. Okay, so we're gonna do this for about 5 minutes. Okay, and then at the same time, we're gonna move the joints at the same time. Okay, so we just move the shoulders and the neck at the same time. So we're just gonna breathe in while opening the arms up. Okay, and turning the head side to side. Okay, just maybe 3 to 5 times per side. Okay, we're gonna tilt the head sideways a little bit. Okay, and we're just gonna move the shoulders up and down. Okay, just a stretch on the top of the shoulders, side of the neck. Okay, and kind of same thing on the other side. Okay, we're gonna do a big shoulder roll. Okay, so we're just gonna let the shoulder guide our spine as well. Okay, so as we pull back and down, we're gonna pull up and back, push the chest forward at the same time, and round our back a little bit as our shoulders goes forward. Okay, let's do just the shoulders and elbows a little bit. Okay, so we're just gonna circle our hands on top. Okay, if you can, try to see if you can squeeze the elbows in while pushing the hands out. Okay, you can also change direction a little bit. Okay, now we're gonna reach into our armpits, almost trying to touch our back. Okay, and then reaching out. Okay, so you feel your shoulders kind of coming forward a little bit when you do this. Okay, and we're just gonna move the entire shoulders. Okay, so just maybe smaller circles first. As you feel more comfortable, see if you can make a bigger circle. You can always change directions. Okay, see if you can do different directions for each arm. Okay, so you know you're doing it right. If your hands kind of meet in the middle, okay, and then separate. Okay, just opposite direction. Try to reach up and back. Okay, and just a couple times at the wrist. Okay, and just opening, closing the hands and the fingers. Okay, checking out. Okay, let's move the hips a little bit more. Okay, that's when you can use the chair for support. Okay, just kind of swing the leg front to back. Okay, try to move from the hips and less from the spine. Okay, so our body shouldn't be kind of swinging forward and back. We should be kind of slouching and extending back. Okay, mostly just from the hip joint. Okay, and just side to side. You might feel a little bit of rotation in the stationary leg. Okay, and just same thing on the other side. When you're ready. Okay, and just 3 to 5 times. Just side to side. Okay, we're gonna lift the leg up a little, slightly, not too high. Okay, we're gonna circle, try and draw a circle with the leg. Oops. 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so once again, still draw a circle of the leg. Okay, always try to extend the leg out as well. Okay, so straighten the knee. Okay, so a really big circle with the leg. Okay, so if you try, it gets really difficult. Okay, so maybe start off a little lower, smaller circles. Okay, so if you're comfortable, go a little slower, but try to draw a bigger circle. So from the side, you should be trying to straighten your leg and bend your leg as well. Okay, the ankles, let's just kind of rock bodies front to back a little bit. Okay, push onto your toes, try to bend, extend the toes. Shift your weight side to side a little bit, lifting the edge of the shoe up. A little bit of rotation of the knee. Okay, and just kind of do a circle of the ankles just a couple of times. And finally, just kind of move your toes a little bit inside the shoes, try to scratch the bottom, try to spread them apart. Okay, try to lift them up a little bit. Okay, and then shaking it out. Okay, so that's just a quick 5-minute warm up. Okay, and let's go on to the lifting part. Okay, so we're still trying to do the kind of basic movements. Okay, so we're still going to do one upper body and then one lower body and then one upper body. We're going to do about maybe 2 sets of each exercise or so. Okay. So first one, okay, let's just do the squats. Okay, so we're going to just add just a little bit of band just to help you engage your hips. Okay, so we are going to, if you're going to grab the band and just kind of tie a knot. Okay, so leave maybe about 2 fists width or so, or if you want a little harder, you can just leave maybe 1 fist width apart. Okay, so 1 or 2. Okay, and this time you actually do have to tie a knot. Okay, so so just a few reminders with the squats. Okay, so you want your knees to be roughly tracking over the toes. Okay, so the band is going to be pulling you in. You have to use the hip muscles a little bit to keep your knees out. Okay, just roughly above the middle of your foot. Okay, side. Your feet are flat on the ground, maybe slightly behind. Okay, your back is always, it's kind of a straight, nice, long posture. Okay, so not rounded. Okay, don't have to overdo it either. Okay, just in the shoulder, ear, shoulder, and hip kind of in place. Okay, so we're just going to push the knees out first. Okay, lean forward. Okay, to get up. Okay, so for the movement, you're going to try to keep pushing the knees out. Okay, so you're going to feel the muscles kind of engage in your thighs as you're doing the squats. Also a little bit of your hips, okay, because you're pushing the band out. Okay, so your hands can be kind of in front if you want for balance. You can hold onto another chair in front if you want. Okay, so we're just going to push the knees out, pushing the butts back, bend the knees, feet are flat on the ground. Okay, maybe just a square height for now. Okay, and send it back up. Okay, so I like to breathe in as I go there. You can pause a little bit at the bottom to make it a little harder if you want. Okay, and come back up. Okay, so number 3. Okay, we're aiming for about 6 to 15 times. 4. Okay, so if it's too hard or too difficult, adjust. So if it's too hard and we don't drop down as low, you just do kind of a mini squats if you want to, and then coming up. Okay, if it's too easy, feel free to tighten the band up or maybe squat down a little lower, pause at the bottom for a little longer, okay, and then come back up. Okay, so I think we at about 7. Okay, so remember you can stop at any point. Okay, you can do more as well. Okay, we just want it to be a little difficult. 9. Okay, make sure you're still breathing, you're not holding your breath. 10. 11. Okay, and we're kind of working till we ask ourselves like how many more times can I do this? Okay, if you can only do about 2 to 3 more, that's a good time to stop. So not all the way to failure, okay, but not too easy either. Okay, so once again, you don't have to do the same number as me. You can do more, you can do less. Okay, but let's pause for a second. The band a little bit. So the squats might get your breathing up a little higher because we are using more muscles at the same time. So usually we want to rest maybe 30 seconds at least. okay? Even 1 to like a couple of minutes if you need to. Okay, so during this time, you can just kind of move a little bit. Sometimes it's also a good time to stretch out certain parts. Sometimes it's just like to keep moving a little bit. It helps to get rid of the lactic acid in our muscles. Okay, so for the upper body, let's just do like a press up. Okay, so this one, let's just sit back down. So depending on how tight your band is, you might have to do it one side at a time. Okay, if this band is too short or too tight, just do it one side at a time so that you have more room to work with. Okay, or just do smaller motions. Okay, so anytime we're lifting a weight in front of the body, remember you want your chest kind of a little higher. Okay, and keep it there. Okay, so back is always kind of a long posture. Okay, so we're just going to press up, maybe just to elbow to shoulder height. Okay, arms, hands at forward level. Turn back there. Okay, so I like to kind of breathe in as I press up. Okay, so there's more air in my abdominals, helps to support my spine. Okay, if you feel comfortable, you can try to go a little higher, but you don't have to. Okay, so once again, we're aiming for roughly 6 to 15 times. Okay, adjust the difficulty so you're roughly in that range. Okay, and we want to stop when we feel like we can at most do maybe 2 or 3 more repetitions. Okay, and that number can be different from person to person, depending on how strong you are, depending on how much weight or how tight your band is. Okay, it can vary from day to day as well. Okay, and pause it for a second. Once again, we're resting for at least maybe 30 seconds. Okay, longer if you need to. Okay, during this time, you can just keep moving in some ways. Okay, or you can just do breathing practices. Okay, you can also start preparing for the squats again. Okay, so you can tie the band, tie the knots again. Okay, so once again, maybe 1 to 2 fist length apart for your knees. Okay, and just tie a knot. Okay, so kind of step out with your feet first. So feet should be roughly wider than hip width apart or kind of shoulder width apart. Your feet maybe a little bit further in, makes it easier to stand up. So if your feet are too far forward, you actually cannot stand up. Okay, so feet a little in. Okay, so remember to push your knees out first. Okay, and then lean forward and settle. Okay, so once again, adjust the difficulty so you can roughly do 6 to 15 times, okay, without pain. Okay, toes can be pointing out slightly. So once again, calmly breathe in. And okay, so even as you go down, try to keep your feet flat on the ground. Okay, so that if your ankle's a little tight, okay, that might be a little difficult. Okay, if you find that as you go down, you're running out of room in your ankles, or you feel that you have to go forward because your back or your ankles are too tight, you might have to stretch it out a little bit more. Okay, so in terms of your gaze, maybe look somewhere far off, okay, but towards the floor, and your body would naturally kind of follow it. So your body ends up maybe 45 degrees or so. Okay, but keep pushing those knees out. When you're done, keep moving a little bit. Focusing on your breath. Okay, sometimes breathing out for a straw can help some people. It just helps to slow our breathing down a little bit, helps you expel more carbon dioxide. Usually when we breathe more quickly during exercise, it's not because we don't have enough oxygen. Okay? It's actually because our body, our muscles is producing more carbon dioxide, which our body is trying to get rid of. Okay, so this is why that people can hold their breath for a very long time underwater, because with every breath, we don't use up all the oxygen. Okay, and when you're ready, let's just do the press again. Once again, the important thing is to keep your chest up, okay, throughout the movement. Okay, the elbows is also kind of roughly pulling out towards the floor, so we're not chicken winging and kind of lifting up this way. The elbows is roughly pointing towards the floor. So primarily it's just shoulders that feels the most sore or most engaging the most. Your back, mid-back muscles also has to tighten a little bit just to keep our chest up. Okay, also try not to shrug the shoulders up. Okay, so keep the shoulders down. Just press up. Okay, and stop when you feel like you can add most to 2 to 3 more times. Okay, once again, that can be different from person to person, set to set. Okay, and we're just gonna once again rest for a little bit. Okay, so for the third one, we're actually going to do a combination of 2 exercises. Okay, so usually 2 sets, depending on how often you train that muscle during the week. Most of the time it's not quite enough. Okay, so we're kind of aiming for closer to 3 to 4 sets. Okay, but for kind of time purposes, we're actually going to combine the 2 exercises, kind of combine them together, not exactly the same. Okay, but first we're going to actually try to tie the knot again. Okay, so still yeah, so let's tie the knot again. Okay, so still fists to 2 fists width apart. There's different ways you combine the 2 exercises for today. Let's try this method. Okay, so let me kind of explain for us. Okay, so saying the bottom part, the legs is exactly the same. Still push your knees apart. Okay, we're still for the lower body, we're still just doing the squat down. Okay, so what's different is that we're going to engage the shoulders a little bit more. Okay, so if you're at home, you can, or in that band, you can kind of lift the weights overhead if you want. Okay, but since we're sticking with one band here, we're going to try this. Okay, so we're going to squat down first. Okay, and at the bottom, you're going to pause for a little bit. Okay, and you're trying to lift your arms up as high as you feel comfortable. Try to engage your back muscles. Okay, and then stand it back up. Okay, and back down. Okay, so at the bottom position, a lot of people kind of end up being in this position a lot. Okay, so we're trying to engage our shoulders, engage our back, lift the arms, so come in a straight line, and then coming back up. Okay, make sure you're still breathing while doing so. Okay, so once again, you kind of squatting down, lift your arms up. Try to get your arms almost beside your ears. Okay, and back down. Okay, while trying to still keep the pushing the knees apart. Okay, so everything else still applies in the lower body. Okay, feet still flat on the ground, knees are still roughly over the toes. You're still sticking your bum out. Okay, at the top, always try to reach up. Okay, so once again, it doesn't have to be always 15 times. So it can be different from exercise to exercise. Okay, so when you're done, let's relax for a second. Okay, so just for your reference or review, we call this kind of the squats. The band across the knees just help us to keep a better position and helps engage hip muscles a little more. Okay, so a lot of people kind of lose the ability to use their hips, so they end up kind of squatting this way, which kind of mostly loads of quads. Okay, we're going to load the hips as well. Okay, so that's why we're sticking our bum out. That's why we are keeping the knees roughly over the toes. Okay, and come back up. Okay, so second one, mostly called a shoulder press. So we're pressing kind of upwards. Okay, you can use a band, you can use a dumbbell to do so. If you at home, if you can count to do it, it's actually easier to do with dumbbells. You can actually just kind of hold the dumbbells here or 2 bottles of something or cans. Okay, you can squat down, you can stand up and press up. Okay, or if you're more flexible, you can do it this way. But it's a little hard to do with the weights up because you can see my arms are still in front of my body, so the weight will pull my shoulders forward. Okay, so if you try to do this, if you do it, just kind of stand up and press. Okay, if you're doing without a weight, you can squat down. Okay, so that's why Olympic lifting is so hard, because you're lifting a very heavy weight in this position. Okay, but since we're not doing that, we don't just do our best. Okay, so shaking out. Okay, so let's do another lower body exercise. Okay, so this one might be easy if you have 2. Actually, let's try this today. So if you have 2 chairs or two things you can hold on to, that will be most ideal. Okay, if you don't, maybe just put it in front of you. Okay, so this one is kind of like it's a lunge, which you can think of as a lower kind of single leg squat almost. Okay, so we're going to do a backwards lunge first. This is easier on the knees. Okay, so it's kind of a similar exercise to this squat. Okay, but let's change it out. Let's try to do it today. Okay, so what you're going to do is that you can something that supports you. You can slide one leg back. Okay, and then you can just drop down slightly. Okay, only go as far as you can feel comfortable, and then come back up. Okay, so you just take a really big step backwards. Okay, and bring your body down a little bit. Okay, come back up. Okay, so from the side, you just take a lunge back. Okay, and just dropping down slightly. Don't go down too low if you feel like your knees have knee problems before. Okay, so reaching back, dropping down. Right, so the back leg just goes down slightly. Your butt goes down a little bit. Come back up. Okay, if you don't have any knee problems at all, you can just go a little lower. Okay, so when is this useful? Okay, so anytime we're getting up from the floor, we are pretty much doing this. Okay, so it's, most people are not going to be standing up this way. Okay, most of the time we are. If we fall, yes, even if you push on something, you're kind of coming out this split stance position. Okay, so it's not a bad idea to practice this. Okay, so let's kind of scope on the top again. Okay, so just take a big step back, drop your back leg a little bit closer to the floor and come back. Use your arms as much as you need to for help. Okay, important thing is actually do take a bigger step back. Okay, so your front knee is not in front of your toes. Okay, so this one maybe don't overdo this one. Okay, it's good even just learn the movement for this time. Okay, and we can repeat some other day. Okay, but same thing applies as a squat. Okay, your knees is still tracking over the toes. Okay, for this one, maybe leave maybe 3 to 5 in the tank. Okay, so you can still do 3 to 5 more, and then good place to stop. Okay, so because it just loads one knee more. Okay, so some people might have problems with it afterwards, so let's not push it too hard. Okay, but if you have no knee problem whatsoever, feel free to go for it. Okay, so again, pause for a second. Kind of walk it out, shake it out. Okay, but just not, don't just prop down and sit. Okay, so we're just going to do second one. We'll keep it simple. We're just going to do a curl. Okay, so we can depending on how long or how tight your band is. Okay, either just kind of step in the middle. You can step on one foot. Okay, and kind of just curl this way. So curl is just bending your elbows. Okay, and nothing else. Okay, if your band is too short or too tight, okay, feel free to just kind of drop one side and just do it kind of one arm at a time, just to give yourself more room to work with. Okay, so adjust as necessary. Okay, so we should be able to do kind of 6 to 15 times. Okay, so same thing applies. Okay, we are not lifting in a rounded position. Chest up first, shoulders slightly back. Okay, you can just bring your belt up a little bit. Okay, so we're not, some people end up kind of in this position, which we don't want either. So. Okay, same for this one. For myself, I still like to kind of breathe in as I come up. Okay, the idea is just that as I breathe in, there's more air around my trunk, in my trunk. Okay, so that helps to support my back. Okay, so thumb is roughly pointing either upwards or kind of to the side, but that digs into my hand a little bit. So for myself, I like to keep my thumbs pointing towards the ceiling or towards myself. Okay, at the very top, try almost to imagine a walnut in your elbows. Try to cross that walnut a little bit, okay, before slowly letting go and coming back down. Okay, so just again shake it out. Okay, primarily you feel it here, the bicep area, a little bit of tension in the shoulders, a little bit of tension in the back. Okay, sometimes you might get a little bit of feeling in your tricep as well. Okay, because when you pull this way, the tricep has to work a little bit to stabilize the joint. Okay, so even the opposite side has to work a little bit, even though primarily we feel it in the front of the upper arm. Okay, and if you're ready, if you want to, you can do the backwards lunge once again. Okay, so once again, see if you use as much support as you need to. Okay, take a big step back. So try not to like do it here like this because your knees tend to go forward. But if I'm too far forward. So take a bigger step back. So my front knee is kind of behind my toes. Okay, and I'm just dropping down slightly as far as I can control. Okay, and then coming back to the standing position. Okay, and use your arms as much as you need to. So big step back. Okay, so something you can, if you have only one chair, sometimes keeping the front kind of works as well. You might feel a little bit of a stretch in the back leg as well, in the front of the back leg. Usually because we sit too much, so this area can be pretty tight. Okay, and lastly for a second when you're done. And when you're ready, if you want to, you can do the bicep curl, one more set. Okay, but take as long of a rest as you need. Okay, so just your own time when you're ready. Okay, so maybe cross that walnuts in your elbows at the top of maybe a split second before coming back down. So 6 to 15 times. Okay, if you can, by 15, if you still feel like you can keep going for like doing 5 more repetitions or more, maybe tighten the band a little bit more. Okay, if you cannot get to even 6, okay, then lengthen the band, get a lighter band. Okay, so you can at least do 6 times. Okay, and just gonna shift things a little bit. Try to keep moving in some ways. Okay, it doesn't have to be fast. Okay, one thing you can do is actually even just to, because it's not just the muscles that are tied, it's also our kind of nervous system that gets tied. So nervous system meaning the signal going from our brain to the muscles. Okay, so one thing you can do is even just to distract yourself a little bit while you're resting. Okay, just to give the brain kind of a rest. Okay, so what's an example of distraction? Okay, so one thing we can try is actually everyone can try spelling their name out backwards. Okay, so my name is Kenneth. Okay, let's try, and then whatever your name is, try to spell it out backwards. Okay, so for myself, the HTENNEK. Okay, and you can do this for other words as well. You can just say like pineapple and then go backwards with that. Okay, because it's something that we don't do often. It's something that we have to kind of focus on. So just change the focus, gives our kind of nurses a little bit of a break. It could be kind of good mental exercise for engaging our brain. So anything that's new, something that's different is good for our brain in terms of keeping our brain healthy, kind of maybe help to decrease the risk of dementia and things like that. So it's not just doing the same, what we're used to. It's something we want to engage our brain by doing something that we're not used to do. Okay, so that's one way we can do that. Okay, so any word, try to spell it backwards. Okay, good. Okay, last one, we're going to combine the kind of backwards lunge with the curl a little bit. Okay, so if your balance is not very good, if you feel like it's too much already, feel free to skip it and just focus on just doing the curl one more time, or just doing the lunge one more time. Okay, but if you feel comfortable, you can try combining two a little bit. Okay, so this one I'm actually going to do only one side at a time. Okay, so I can keep my other hand kind of using on the chair for balance or for support. Okay, so I'm stepping on my kind of right leg on one side, and then just band on my right side as well. Okay, so it's just one after the other. Okay, so I'm just going to step back, kind of up. I'm just going to go up. Okay, and I'm just going to keep doing the same leg this time. Okay, so okay, once again, if this is not comfortable for you, don't feel pressure to do so. If it's any way painful for you, also don't feel pressure to do so as well. Okay, so once again, don't move into pain. Okay, unless a physiotherapist tells you to do so, like right after like a knee surgery or hip surgery. Okay, and when you're done one side, shake things out a little bit. Okay, when you're ready, you can kind of repeat on the other side. Take as long of a rest as you want in between. Okay, so this is actually also easier if you have a dumbbell. Make sure you're still breathing in and out. Okay, so just when the thigh muscles probably get a little more tired. Okay, so I'm roughly only aiming for about 8 times for myself. You can do more or less. The range is still 6 to 15 times. Okay, so that's checking us a little bit. Okay, so I think the class actually went a little longer today for the other stuff. So we're just going to kind of go on to a little bit, just one balance exercise. Okay, and then we do a little bit of just a cool down afterwards. Okay, so this one, since if you have 2 chairs out, that'll be perfect. And you can just kind of put one, you might need a little more space for this one. If you don't, just kind of shrink everything down. You don't necessarily need the chairs. Okay, but it's just kind of good to give you an idea. Okay, so what we're practicing first is still kind of a tight walking in a more unstable position. So a couple of choices, you can either kind of walk in a kind of a tightrope position. Okay, if it's too hard for you, make sure you straighten your feet apart a little bit. Okay, another choice is that you can kind of just walk on your tippy toes. Okay, that makes us a little unstable as well. Another kind of hard one might be kind of on your heels, kind of walking on your heels. Okay, that's a little harder. Okay, so we're gonna practice walking down in one of those ways. Okay, but we're not just gonna go kind of forward and back or side to side. Okay, because regular day activity, we just don't go just in a straight line. We go in a circle, right? So what we're gonna do is that we're gonna, if you have 2 chairs, it's just everybody visualize it, is that you're gonna walk around the chairs in like in a figure 8 shape. Okay, so I'm just gonna walk kind of around this chair. Okay, and then go in between the chairs and go back the other way. So what this is doing is that you're turning kind of left on one part of the trip and then turning right on the other part as well. Okay, so just making us work in more how we would move in every day. Okay, so find a way, and then so walking, you can start just walking around in a shape like this. Okay, when you feel comfortable, see if you can walk in one of those few ways. So either kind of on your tippy toes. Okay, you can walk kind of on your heels. Okay, or you can kind of walk in like a tightrope. Okay, so one foot in front of the other. Okay, always safety first. Okay, so maybe can be a little challenging, can be a little, may feel a little wobbly. Okay, but make sure you have something to hold on to. Okay, the hard one will be if you can also combine the two. So tippy toes and in a straight line in a tightrope position. Okay, or on your heels and in a tightrope position. Okay, those would be definitely more challenging. Okay, but you're walking in a figure 8 shape. Okay, so yeah, we should. If you want, you can try and it's kind of tightrope walking on your toes or on your heels. Okay, the heel one tightrope is probably the hardest one out of the ones we mentioned. Okay. Actually, we still have a little bit of time. Okay, so let's just do one more balance. Okay, so that's one way we can kind of improve our balance. Is not always a stationary standing on one leg. It's balancing, keeping our balance while moving in different ways. Okay. In terms of what our body uses for balance, okay, a couple of systems that we use in the body. We use our eyes. Okay, so we tilt sideways, our eyes can detect that we're not leveled. Okay, our ears can detect when our body is not kind of straight. Okay, our feet, our rest of the legs and body can feel like when you have, let's say, more pressure on one leg, more pressure on the outside of the foot. Okay, so, but we actually rely a lot on our vision. Okay, so that's why we're going to try to practice it without the vision. Okay, so what we're going to do is that we actually, so we have a chair holding on. Okay, so this is literally just going to balance while your eyes closed. Okay, so find a position where you can actually safely hold on to something first. Okay, your feet a little close together. Okay, and if you feel ready, it'll be a little lighter on the hands first. Okay, so it's still pretty easy. Okay, and when you feel comfortable, try to see if you can close your eyes. Okay, and still maintain the balance. Okay, so in this, when you have your eyes closed, you rely on the system in your ears. Okay, a lot on your feet. Okay, feel the pressure on different parts of the legs and the feet. Okay, if this is too easy for you, see if you can maybe go in a straight line, the tightrope walking position. Okay, that will be a little harder. Okay, if it's still very easy for you, see you can even go on your maybe tiptoes or on your heels, like we did before. Okay, but always safety first. Okay, so something you can at least hold on for 5 seconds. Okay, if you can't, widen your feet a little apart. Okay, so this is another way we kind of train our balance. Okay, so balance once again is not just standing on one leg, not moving. Okay, so we have to train because people fall in different ways. Okay, usually we fall when we're moving, when we're turning. Okay, when we can't see quite clearly, maybe in the dark. Okay, and of course there are lots of other reasons like medications that can affect balance. Okay, but in terms of exercise, we want to train in different ways. Okay, so we have about 5 minutes left. Okay, let's just kind of quickly stretch out the muscle we kind of use. Okay, so just a cool down. Okay, so in the pressing, we kind of use a lot of shoulders. Okay, so let's just kind of do a classic shoulder stretch. So reaching across the body, reaching underneath, okay, pulling your arm into your body, feeling a stretch on the straight arm, on the shoulder area. Focusing on taking a deep breath in and out. Okay, just 3 to 5 deep breaths. Okay, and then when you're ready, just the same thing on the other side. Okay, we did quite a bit of squatting on the legs. Okay, so we just stretch the front of the thighs. Okay, this one, if you don't feel comfortable, feel free to skip it. Okay, but we just try and grab ankles or the kind of the back of the leg of our pants. Okay, and you're just trying to kind of reach, imagine trying to reach your knee towards the floor. Okay, bring your belt line up a little bit. Okay, feel the stretch out front of the thigh, a little bit in front of the hips. It might be even safest if you do it, let's say, beside a wall or something. So if you do fall one way, you can somebody catch you. Okay, so once again, try to reach towards the floor of your knee. When you're ready, just the same thing. On our leg. Once again, you're not going to feel much if your knees are bent this way like this. You try to reach your knee towards the floor. Try to bring your belt line up a little bit. But primarily imagine reaching down the bent knee. You can also be careful that you're not kind of stretch your back by arching like this. Okay, so that's why we bring the belt line up, just to kind of level off the pelvis. Okay, stretch back out. Okay, let's stretch out the bicep area a little bit. Okay, we're gonna do this by sitting. Let's try sitting down a little bit for this one. This one help you make sure you can grab onto something in the back. Okay, so sit a little bit more forward. Okay, reach a little further up the chair. Okay, and try to straighten out the arm. So this way my elbows being bent. Try to straighten out the arm. Okay, and even just lean a little forward. So you might feel a stretch in the shoulders. Okay, sometimes you might also, if you're very tight, you might feel a little bit here as well. Okay, if you still don't feel anything, you might have to slide yourself a little more forward. Sometimes it might even be easier to do this on the ground. Okay, but the important thing is straighten out the elbows and then try to almost reach forward your chest a little bit. Okay, a little bit of a stretch in the chest, but you should feel the front of the upper arm, a little bit of a stretch. Okay, and come out. Okay, final one. Okay, just to stretch the bicep area since we grip something. Okay, so when you have look in your hand, palm on palm, straighten out the elbows. And if you're a little more flexible, you can just use your chair to help as well. So try to get your fingers to point towards yourself. Okay, and palms down. Okay, you don't have to use your chair if you don't. You're a little tighter. Okay, I just like it because it's easy to keep my fingers stretched out as well. Usually my fingers are pretty tight as well. So for myself, I'm just kind of using this hand to kind of pressing down my fingers a little bit, okay, just to stretch out the palm, the fingers area. Okay, but the basic one is just palm on palm, okay, and shooting out this way. Okay, so either version works for you, whatever works more comfortable, more appropriate for you. Okay, and kind of leaning backwards slightly, I guess. Okay, and slowly come back out. Okay, and that's kind of roughly all the time we have for today. Okay, so thank you for coming, everyone.